Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan, and the topic of this 10-minute moan is yet another farcical court appearance due to the SNP Scottish Government, but this one could have massive financial implications for the good people of Scotland. And what this story is all about is the SNP got in bed with the Greens after the last election because they didn't have a majority to get them in government, so they formed a coalition with the Greens. And in doing so, they gave the Greens a bit of power. And one of the things the Greens decided to do with that power was come up with a deposit return scheme for drinking, bottles, cans, whatever, right? And they came about, put one in place, almost got it through, and then the UK government said you can't actually do that. Well, you can, but just take the bit of the glass out, right? Because it will contradict what we're doing nationally. And some people had spent loads of money getting set up for this deposit return scheme. And one of them is suing the government for lost money. Now, to give you a bit of insight, at the time this deposit return scheme, I was doing a wee bit of consultancy work for a drinks firm in Jersey. Jersey, the Channel Islands. No Jersey, New York, right? And the guy that was the owner phoned me up a bit panicky one day, saying, how are we going to get round this thing? What thing? This deposit return scheme. Because it looked like it was going to cost them quite a lot of money to make sure they were compliant. We got some sternly worded emails, etc., suggesting that because they were supplying a product into Scotland, then they would need to make sure it was returned safely. And the guy, the owner of the brand, was quite rightly concerned. Then I told him, forget about it. That'll not happen because the Scottish Government are daft, right? And lo and behold, it didn't happen. So in the meantime, loads of people were told they need to get ready for this deposit return scheme that actually didn't happen. So some people didn't have advice like I gave, well, just do nothing. And they set about building things, putting processes in place for a deposit return scheme that never happened. So the story's highlighted in a lot of newspapers today, but one of the funniest coverages is the Scottish Daily Express, so I'm going to use them for reference. And their headline is, SNP government faces latest 200 million court battle as Lorna Slater's deposit return scheme failure to be laid bare. The Scottish Government is court this week as it's been sued by waste management firm Biffa for £200 million after the collapse of the deposit return scheme by former First Minister Humza Yousaf. The Scottish Government is facing yet another day in court to defend its failures, as legal action is about its deposit return scheme, the DRS, will begin on Tuesday. That's today. Waste management firm Biffa is suing SNP Ministers for £200 million of losses due to money they invested in a recycling initiative. Spearheaded by former Scottish Greens Minister Lorna Slater, it was collapsed by her and ex-First Minister Humza Yousaf after they refused to give in to requests by Westminster to remove the glass bottles from the scheme so it matched up with other UK-wide projects. The SNP have repeatedly insisted that it was all the UK government's fault that the DRS never went ahead, but permission was granted for it if glass was taken out. It was highlighted that there was already a glass recycling which councils do, and it would have been made more complex. Biffa was hired by the Scottish Government on a 10-year deal with logistics and collect the recycled drinks container as part of the DRS. But this contract was handed out before the executive even got the internal market opt-out it needed from Westminster. They're good, aren't they? They're absolute crackers. So they're handing out multi-million pound contracts for a scheme that wasn't rubber stamped yet. And me, you, and the other good people of Scotland will pay for it. The waste management firm insists it lost £55 million when the scheme was axed, and is looking for £145 million in lost profits as it purchased equipment for when the scheme went live. Biffa was also one of the largest creditors of Circularity, Scotland, the organisation set up to manage the DRS, which plunged into administration. Now here's something that I need to ask you, right? Why are we giving away multi-million pound contracts to businesses to make 145 million quid? We have councils in Scotland and every single one of them has people that collect bins. So why do we need to give Biffa or anybody else for that matter money when we have publicly owned facilities that can do this? So now it's going to cost us potentially, depends how the court case goes, 200 million quid. Now 145 million of that claim is for profit. I tell you, you don't need to be a business tycoon to figure out we could probably have done it at our own council level for a lot less money if it actually went ahead at all. So 2 days of legal debate over the claim beginning Tuesday at the Court of Session, with the Scottish Government being perennial losers when it comes to court action. It has lost over gender reforms, independence and keeping secret Nicola Sturgeon report under wraps in the last few years. This will probably be their fourth. The deposit return scheme would have seen an extra 20p added onto all drinks containers, which would be refunded when the container was taken back to be recycled. The row surrounding it marred the start of Mr Yousaf's First Minister role, as he took part in the dramatic row with the UK government and eventually U-turned. Businesses warned about the detrimental impact going ahead with it earlier than the rest of the UK might have, especially in cross-border trade, but Mr Yousaf and Ms Slater refused to listen, resulting in the loss of millions of taxpayer cash when the entire project collapsed. It led to a vote of no confidence in the Scottish Greens minister, which she won due to support from her own party in SNP, before being sacked anyway a few months later in a move that led to the end of Mr Yousaf's job as First Minister. UK-wide DRS is being planned, but has been pushed back until 2027. Biffa, previously released a statement ahead of the initial hearing earlier this year saying Biffa was selected by Circularity Scotland Limited as a logistics partner for delivery of the Scottish Deposit Return Scheme and invested significant sums to support its timely and successful implementation. It was done in good faith and on the expectation and understanding that the delivery of the scheme had been mandated by the Scottish Government. Having carefully reviewed our position with our advisors, we can confirm that we are taking legal action to seek appropriate compensation for the losses Biffa has incurred. Biffa has been represented by Head of Faculty of Advocates Roddy Dunlop KC, and Scottish Ministers are being represented by Jerry Moynihan KC. Now, see, apart from this court case, which they may or may not lose, right? So that's potentially 200 million. If they lose the case and if the judge was to award the full claim. But here's a kicker. How much have we spent already? Because I'm looking at a picture in the newspaper article, which shows signage put up, apologies for inconvenience while we prepare for the Scotland's Deposit Return Scheme. That looks as if it's a big shopping centre or something where there's some work being done. So for by this 200 million potential, how much has been lost in total? How much has already been lost? Through even daft signs. These things don't cost pennies. And we might have had hundreds or not thousands of these signs alone. It could be 20 to 50 quid per sign. So, how much have we actually spent in this thing before it was even rubber stamped? And the SNP will blame the Greens, and the Greens will blame Westminster. They'll all blame Westminster, won't they? But it's their own stupidity. Imagine agreeing a multi-million pound contract for a thing that's not even been rubber stamped. But, as usual, do they care? No. It doesn't come out of their pocket. It comes out of the good people of Scotland's pocket, because it'll either need to be raised by somehow to get this money if it's lost and to cover all the money already spent, or simply other services that rely on money from the Scottish Government need to suffer if they need to find 200 million. But I would be interested, I'd maybe fire away a wee FOI just to see the total cost out with claims, costs of setting it up, posters, signs, all this nonsense, all these committees that have been set up, all these meetings that would have happened, and how many millions have already been wasted for a scheme that failed to go live. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you've not already done so, please hit the subscribe button and notifications bell. Let us know what you think in the comments below, but most importantly of all, unless you're the SNP or the nutty Greens that are in our Parliament for a couple of years between them, not you, but
everyone else, have a great day. Cheerio, bye now.